And welcome back to Watchbox Studios and Watches Tonight. I'm your host, Tim Mosso. We are wrapping up Baselworld, putting a bow on Basel 2019. I'm ready to share some of my personal favorites as well as, again, subjective and personal assessments of what worked at Basel and what didn't this year. Remember, even during Basel, survival instinct takes hold. There's no better place than the Watchbox.com to buy, sell, or trade luxury watches, especially when we want to sell. We pay fast, we pay cash, we make it a no-brainer, and of course we have a new promotion going right now. If you want to get something really nice for less than it would often cost, we have a spring sale in progress. Everything from Jaeger-LeCoultre to Lange to IWC Pilot's watches is in the selection, and I helped to curate it, so definitely give that a look. We're also doing an auction on eBay, a real auction, not a buy it now, from the 31st to the 6th. The end of this month through the 6th of April, link in the description. Jumping straight in, viewer wrist shots. Everyone, welcome aboard and thank you for joining me. Roy S. joins us from the Sierra Nevadas with a Casio G-Shock and a KTM bike. KTM 300XC. Ride safely. There you are, Roy. Nice watch, nice color coordination between bike and sleeve. Okay, Philip H. recreates my weekend watch comparison. If you saw this on Watchbox Reviews, I pitted the Rolex Daytona against the Pepsi GMT in steel. Which one won? Well, you're going to have to watch it on Watchbox Reviews. Casper of Norway and his Rolex Explorer 2 take a jaunt during the winter and celebrate the exploits of his compatriot Erling Kaga. Marcio M. of Richmond, Virginia does lunch with Rolex and Leica handy, nicely composed. You're making me hungry. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your pieces on these pixels. Jumping into the box, I can see we've got ZMT joining us from New Jersey, Robert Dixon from Scotland. I've got John Hackathorn joining. Hello from Oklahoma. Hello, Oklahoma John. And I can see Richard Howard joining, saying no Baum and Mercier news, nothing today. Michael B. Hi, my man Tim. Hello, my man Michael. And Bill, hey Tim. Welcome, guys. We got Joe R., we've got Sidhan Misra, and we've got Turkey Vulture, plus Squiggly Frank and Russell996. Okay, guys, jumping straight in. My favorites from Baselworld. This is subjective. You may disagree. Let me know what you think. Tell me your favorites if you're watching this recorded. But first, Patek Philippe Aquanaut 5168G. Green watch content warning. There's going to be a lot of it. While I'm surprised that Patek is holding the line and keeping the 2017 to present 5168 family all white gold, nevertheless, this second installment throws shade all over that original 2017 watch. You look at them side by side and there's no contest. The newer watch just looks more rugged, sporting, and appropriate for that 42mm case. From its olive green rubber strap to its sandpaper-like dial texture, this 42.2mm Sportster looks fresher than anything else in the Patek catalog, especially among the sports watches, and it is the closest thing the House of Stern has ever offered to a true Royal Oak offshore rival. At 42, big and bold, it's the right color, it's the right size. Jumping into my favorite, different end of the price spectrum, Oris Aquos Great Barrier Reef 3. This 43.5mm stainless steel diver has heart and beauty to recommend it. Take a look at it. Wow! Let me be clear, there is a regrettable interchangeability among watches in the sub $3,000 price range, especially sports watches where they generally knock off a Breitling, an Omega, or a Rolex and call it a day. But there's no reason why lower-priced watches shouldn't be beautifully styled or thoughtfully packaged. It seems that the effort and price go hand in hand in this industry, and that shouldn't be the case. Even an affordable watch should be gorgeous, and Oris believes the same. Besides value, the people in Holstein deliver great-looking options, even at roughly $2,500 US as here. This is a handsome dive watch, folks, with a 2,000-piece limited edition, and I expect them to go relatively quickly. So a 2,000-piece dive watch that, frankly, could be compared side by side with anything from Omega or Rolex. It looks more expensive than it is, and a sunburst blue dial that almost has a life of its own. Not only is it a turquoise sunburst blue, but it's a gradient fade from the center to the outside. Even Moser doesn't do a better job than this on fume-style gradient fade dials. There's a ton of value because it also features a turquoise blue ceramic bezel insert and a deployant clasp with an internal dive extension. Plus, if you look at that picture, you can see that the bracelet is held to the case using screws, assembled the way an offshore would be, cutting no corners, no spring bars on that Aquos Reef 3. I'll also mention that the minimalist box, this is fun, they sweat the details at Oris, is made out of algae. Unconventional, but thoughtful and consistent with the message of the watch. Also, the caseback image references that message. Great Barrier Reef reconstruction, a worthy cause, and also a treat. This is new and a coda to the verse, as I like to say, but there is now a 39.5mm version of last year's green ceramic Aquos date. So you get that green ceramic now in a Rolex equivalent 39.5mm. It is a sub-Hulk for 1/4 the price. Okay, another green watch, but opposite end of this price spectrum. We're going back upscale. This is the Moser Flying Hours with both cosmic green dial, as here, and blue superluminova, solid discs of blue superluminova. That looks like it's coloration, it's actually lume. The watch launched last year, if you recall, as a 60-piece limited edition in white gold. But at the time, the Moser folks told me we didn't spend almost £1 million Swiss franc developing that movement to make 60 watches. And indeed, it's now 260 watches. The new model at SIHH was actually under embargo. I took some video, I took some shots, but it was under wraps until Baselworld. I can share it with you now, and at Tim_Mosso, my Instagram, where I'm going to post my Instagram video of that watch tonight. This watch, of course, the cosmic green with the fume gradient fade. You can see how it works. It's actually like flying hours, but it's not an Urwerk style. The hour discs themselves don't move. The minute ring turns around, and the hour discs rotate 90 degrees at a time. It's a very cool and animated look. There is also the blue luminova model that features those solid discs of luminova that create a wonderful spectacle. It's not a sports watch, but it could pass for one. It's got the size, it's got the stance, and it's got the lume. It's also automatic winding, and as with the original flying hours, we have a Moser manufacturer HMC 806 movement in this one, beautifully executed, automatic winding, 3-day power reserve, a gorgeous piece front and back, but for once I'm going to say you're going to favor the dial over the movement. 100 pieces will be made of each of the new model, the blue luminova and the green cosmic. But here's the thing, we don't have pricing. Educated guess, since these are still 42mm in white gold like last year's model, I'm gonna go with the same $32,000 US as last year's model. Jumping into the box, I can see is asking, you guys selling the Tudor P01? Well, we eventually will. I like your name. It's onomatopoeia. And Vegas Milgauss, he of the White Dial Milgauss, is saying that green. I know. And True Lie, the Ottavia line is really nice looking. Stay tuned, True. Stay tuned. Jumping straight down the price spectrum to the middle of the market, we talk about Breitling. Breitling and their new line of Bentley Breitling Premier B01s. The Bentley Breitling line continues, but Breitling for Bentley is history as a standalone model series. The partnership lives on in the Breitling Premier collection that debuted last fall. There will be Bentley versions. Bentley branded models will appear in this series that Breitling has anointed as its Urban Land Sports series. That's the Premier's mission, alongside the Navitimers and the Super Oceans. The basic Premier B0142 is attractive, but the real Elm Burlwood dials on these are to die for. They appear genuinely luxurious. This is what a Bentley watch should be. And frankly, although that one's ambitiously priced at $28,000, you gotta shoot for the stars if you want to hit the moon. Thoughtful details include the new dials, of course, in burl wood, real wood, shades of the 2008 Cartier Roadster XL right there, but also the Bentley nameplates on the flank with their visible polished gold screws and the engine turning, as you might find in a custom Bentley interior. Straps feature cross-hatched stitching that's lovely and reminiscent of Bentley upholstery, so it's on brand for both Breitling and Bentley, and all four 42mm watches use the B01 caliber. COSC chronometer, automatic 3-day power reserve, 100 meters water resistant these are going to be. They're land sports watches, but they're definitely swimmable on a different strap. Also vertical clutch and a column wheel, and now display casebacks are a thing at Breitling. You're going to see the B01, and surprise, it's a good looking movement. 200 rose gold examples will be made, 1,000 of the stainless steel models will be offered, and I actually think the steel models will be a fairly easy sell. But here's the pricing, and you guys let me know if this is too ambitious for Breitling. At this point, they're testing the limits of Breitling's still rehabbing brand image. $9,950 for what you see right here. For the rose gold, you're going to pay $28,000. I think $200 might be a bit much in rose gold for that model, and I think $1,000 might be a bit much. I think these will sell. I don't know if they'll sell at list. They're attractive watches, but Breitling might have just overpriced these for the image and brand equity they've got at the moment. That said, all are more affordable than my dream Bentley. The car I'm always trying to figure out which redundant organ I can sell to purchase, which of course is the late great Brooklyn's Coupe, the world's best looking 6,000-pound car. 18.5 feet, 2 doors. You can't go wrong. Those still trade at about $120,000. And we've got Amar asking, Tim, any news on the Swatch Time to Move event? Shamefully, no. All of the news is embargoed. The event is press only. It's going on in Zurich and no one's got a clue. There are local shows to roll out these models around the world. They say they want to go straight to the customer. So far, not so good. Those shows better be incredible. We'll talk about that in a moment after we talk about the value proposition. Oftentimes, value proposition is applied inappropriately to a cheap watch. Value means you get a lot for what you pay, regardless of the price point. Happily, low price and value coincide in the Sinn 104ST SAAG. This thing is awesome, and I want it. Here's one from an esteemed brand at a fabulous price, $1,390 US. There's no catch. That's what it costs. 41 millimeters and only 11.5 millimeters thick. This one is thinner by about 0.7 of a millimeter than a Rolex Daytona. It will fit under any cuff. And this is a pilot's watch you can now wear with formal attire, or, if you're so inclined, aviation gear. It's a wonderfully beautiful piece. The green dial sings. The case is 200 meters water resistant. It features a bidirectional loomed pilot's bezel. Very, very useful. Who needs a chronograph when you have a timing bezel? Plus, you've got a useful day-date complication, which is friendly in almost every circumstance, and what Sinn bills as a shimmering green metallic dial. Their term, not mine. Plus, how much do you love those syringe hands on the green metallic? Ooh, good. Well done, Sinn. I also have to say that its dial loom really leaves nothing to be desired. That's pretty dramatic. You can even see the index on the bezel, something a lot of dive watches don't get right. And ultimately, power is provided by a high grade, and judging by the balance, it's either top or chronometer grade, ETA 2836, and a sapphire so you can enjoy. The only brand in this discussion that I actually own, EZM11, and I have to say this 104 is the watch from this group that I would probably be most inclined to own. Price notwithstanding, give me one of these watches, I'm probably going to pick this one. It's my style, and with only 500 pieces, these will move fast. There will be none left. Breitling, you've got to price your watch commensurate to your image and the edition number, and Sinn, if anything, could probably have built more or charged more. And I could see Robert Dixon saying, I want a Sinn 556, and we've got Lucas B saying, Tim, what do you think of the upcoming Doxa Sub 130th? I like it. If you're into historic Doxa, you can't do any better. No watch in that price point has a better bracelet on the wrist. It feels like the bracelet of a $10,000 watch. And no dive watch, period, has the chunky, crisp detent that you find on a Doxa Sub. It's between the Doxa Sub, the Luminor Submersible, and everyone else's in also ran. So I am a fan. And I can see right here we've got Steve Bowden saying, what does Sinn sell in Asia? I wouldn't be able to tell you, but frankly, this is a company that makes a little bit of everything. You might be surprised by some of their dress watches, especially in Damascus steel. Jump into the next one. I finally have an answer to the perennial question folks ask me, and I always struggle, what should I get for under 500 bucks? It's not really my area of expertise. I say get the original G-Shock DW5000 so you can own a classic, or get a Swatch System 51 if you want a cool automatic watch at an accessible price point. I now have a third arrow in my quiver, and it's the Bulova Computron vintage reissue. Yes, this is a vintage reissue. This was previewed at Basel rather than launched in earnest, so these aren't going to filter to dealers in a while, but it's already a favorite of mine. All vintage reeditions should be this imaginative and this bold. That's the original from the early 1980s. That is a cool watch. Seriously, the world does not need another rehashed 60s dive watch. It's time to call time on that trend, a trend that must end. We need more vintage reissues like this. There will be a steel Computron, which would be my choice, and therein lies the blue LED that I think is probably the coolest blue dial of the year. And there will be a steel PVD model on a rubber strap with the black PVD case. Anyone who regrets not buying a functional 1970s Hamilton Pulsar when they had the chance is going to welcome this new arrival. Okay, what are you going to pay? Not a whole lot of money. $295 for steel or steel PVD. For that one right there, $395. It is plated steel. It is plated gold. I would just go with the steel and spare yourself the scratches. Jumping in, Vegas Milgaw saying Grandmaster Flash. It does have a little bit of an air of that to it, doesn't it? And I could see right here, Dustin Van Patten is saying peripheral rotor octo chrono. Did you read my mind? Because the next watch up is the Bulgari Octo Finissimo chronograph GMT, high horology at a reasonable price, all things considered, with a movement descended from a tourbillon automatic. Let's start out with the simple fact that this one seemed to get lost in the shuffle of the expected obsession over Rolex and Patek Philippe. That was expected. This was not. Here's the deal. This is arguably more appealing than any of the new watches from either of those brands. Let's start with the basics. 42mm titanium watch. Titanium dial. All of this with a slim case band, the whole watch. GMT automatic chrono, 6.9 millimeters thick. Do I have your attention there? Remember, a Rolex Daytona is 12.2, 12.4, depending on the case metal. It's almost like an Hublot Big Bang in profile compared to this thing. I'll also mention that this is a watch with a 3.3 millimeter thick automatic with peripheral rotor, and it's a platinum peripheral rotor, handmade and hand decorated in the manufacturer in Le Sentier, Switzerland. It's made not far from Jaeger-LeCoultre and in the same grand traditions. It's based on last year's Octo Finissimo tourbillon automatic, which was at the time the world's thinnest automatic and world's thinnest tourbillon. The movement then was the BVL 288, and you can see how similar the architecture is to the chronograph GMT. Now it is the BVL 318 automatic winding, 55-hour power reserve, column wheel chronograph, GMT, 2 independent time zones with a 24-hour format for the second dial. Incredibly, it does have water resistance, 30 meters, but still, splash only or moisture, 0 ATM would have been acceptable for a watch this thin. And I'll add that it's entirely hand-finished inside and out. It features a second time zone on the dial where you would normally find the 3 o'clock position. So that would normally be either constant seconds or a chrono register. Here, they put the 24-hour dial where you expect a sub-register to lie, so you don't have any GMT hand at center cluttering the face of the watch. This is clever. It's automatic, a GMT, and a chrono in a base metal titanium, blasted dial, blasted case. $17,600 is a ton of money. But, figuratively speaking, this is a ton of watch. It just doesn't weigh a ton. You could have this or a Yachtmaster 2. And while I am uniquely enamored of the Yachtmaster 2, I can't imagine saying no to this, especially what people are charging for aftermarket GMTs on secondary exchanges, what people are charging for Daytonas on secondary exchanges. You can get this for less than those, and this is probably a more interesting, definitely a more interesting watch. Okay, jumping into the box right here, our main feature, your favorites. Let me know in the chat as well as in the comment box if you're watching recorded what your favorites of the show were. Maybe I missed something. Maybe you can open my eyes and I'll share it on my next episode. Jumping straight in, I can see we got a lot of friends joining, and we have Sam Leno saying hints of the Audemars Piguet offshore right there. Only from head on, not from the side. Main feature, Baselworld, the roundup. Where does this leave us? Well, in many respects, this was the year that the 2 Swiss trade shows began to sense their mortality, especially Basel, but to a lesser extent SIHH too. Swatch withdrew from Basel and took over a dozen flagship brands with it. We will miss those Swatch brands, as we already are. Also important, many other exhibitors have quietly dropped Basel. A lot of the high horology brands and independents have jumped ship to SIHH. Bremont left, Chopard left, and there are hundreds of others that followed them. Basel is clearly running out of time, and here's the proof in numbers. 1,500 exhibitors attended the 2015 show not too long ago. This year, around 600 exhibitors. They've closed 3 halls. The old pop-up palace that used to house the independents has been vacated and collapsed because most of those guys now exhibit in Geneva in January. And I have to remind everyone that in December, we received the stunning news that Baselworld and SIHH are going to be a tandem next year, with SIHH opening first, and from the end of April to the beginning of May, we will have SIHH in Geneva and Basel over in Baselworld consecutively, which is tacit admission that people no longer see any need or have any desire to travel to Switzerland more than once a year for watch trade shows. SIHH and Basel are largely relics of the pre-internet age, when the only way to see the new models and place your orders for the year as a dealer was to physically go to Switzerland. Not once, but twice. This isn't quite the last waltz 2019, but you do get the sense that the band is warming up. Okay, Baselworld, what worked? Jumping straight in. First, Patek Philippe saved the day for an otherwise dreary Basel fair. A procession of models outside the Patek Philippe family that were just existing watches, safe bets, proven cash cows, and demonstrated a lack of imagination. Patek was the antidote. And that despite the fact that many of Patek's new models were variations on existing model lines. The models were just that good. Core product received a big shot in the arm with an all-new 5726. The silver dial and the gray dial are gone. The blue dial is in, and it's easily the most handsome option yet in the annual calendar Nautilus. Now, we had some risk-taking, too. That one was $45,930. The shot in the dark was the stainless steel 5212A. A Calatrava weekly calendar launched as a debut model in steel from the outset, which was interesting because Patek never does that, and when you see steel Pateks, it's generally a special edition or a sports watch. In this case, neither obtains. A beautiful dial that's designed to look like a mid-century hand-drawn calendar dial. This one has to be seen in person. Photos I've seen on the wrist look a lot better than the press shots. Plus, it debuts an all-new automatic movement for Patek. We were talking about the need for an all-new movement before the show, and here it is. You're getting caliber 26-330, automatic, integrated complication, Leica-etched parts, super precise thanks to the Leica etching of the components. There's absolutely no play in the hands while setting, from what I understand, and fresh from the factory, stop seconds in a Patek Philippe. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum, granted, we're talking $30,000 and $40,000 watches here, but it escalates rather quickly in the house of Stern. We have the Dream Watch, the $226,810 Patek Philippe Calatrava Pilot Travel Time Alarm. This is the 5520, a watch that exhausts superlatives, 42 millimeters in platinum. It features 2 time zones, a loomed dial, a pilot's aesthetic, and a digital 24-hour format alarm on its black sunburst dial. I can find no fault with this one, other than the fact that it looks a little bit gnarly, kind of like a warthog watch with all those crowns popping off the side. The functionality says it all. This is worth the price of admission, and the price is dear. I will also mention that if you're not quite into the warthog look or the potato with eyes on your wrist, at 38 millimeters we have an enamel dial 5078G minute repeater, discreet, gorgeous, and you have a Grand Faux black enamel dial where the contrast is subtle and achieved by sanding and polishing, so you have matte and polish, and this lovely florid Art Nouveau motif, all on a dial of Grand Faux black, and Patek has only started doing Grand Faux black recently. It is that hard to execute. That's stealth wealth at its best, the way to wear a nice home on your wrist. Okay, bottom of the barrel price-wise, but top of the heap in my esteem, is Tag Heuer's new Octavia, which is everything a good Tag Heuer watch should be. Imaginative, innovative, and fairly priced across the board. These are cool. The Epic dial, available here in smoked black, gray, or blue, borrows a page from sister LVMH brand Zenith. A wonderful gradient. Gradient blue dials were kind of the thing this year, but this gives you 3 gradient options. And they all boast a roughed granular base that gives depth and texture and an upscale feel to every single one of these sub $4,000 watches. Even the lume is excellent, so at 42 millimeters in stainless steel or bronze, this is an all-the-time watch that you can wear with just about everything. I would even say that the lugs themselves exhibit an unexpected grace with a little bit of a flaring bevel at their end, like something you might see on a vintage timepiece. And while this is not a vintage reissue watch, and thank God for that, they took the accents of the past, like the 1960 Tag, or I should say Heuer bevels, pre-Tag Heuer bevels, and they implemented them here without copying the rest of any period watch, and I really appreciate that. Borrowing the spirit of the past without plagiarizing is a best case scenario. Underneath, a handsome solid caseback, intriguingly made of titanium, even on the steel watches, reminding you that the Ottavia is the aviation and automotive watch, but we have an automatic caliber that's based on a chronometer grade Sellita SW200, but the caliber 5 gets very interesting very quickly in its isograph form as featured here. You have a carbon composite hairspring made in-house by Tag that features an integrated collet, which is techie and the kind of thing you expect of Patek Philippe with its Spiromax silicon. Plus, there is a new, take a look at that balance, that's different. That is an aluminum alloy balance, so the watch is completely anti-magnetic and resistant to thermal drift. It's not going to speed up or slow down as temperature changes. Very impressive, and again, COSC certified. All of this largely built in-house. The most important parts of this movement are made by Tag. It's 100-meter water resistant. It's only $3,950 on the full bracelet, which is a buy. But it's also $3,600 if you want to get it on a leather strap. So you have a lot of options in terms of both the case material, bronze or steel, the dial, you've got gray, black, or blue, and of course the strap, which you can also get as a NATO textile. Excellent effort, excellent value. It's not another baby Hublot or another Heuer vintage re-edition, and that has huge implications for Tag's progress in product development and growth as a brand. Jumping in, I can see Jacob Casper saying Tag Tech is pretty cool, no denying it. BS saying at least Tag is doing something interesting. And I can see Alvin joining in from Singapore early morning. Alvin, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. And Z saying Tag did do well at Basel this year, with Daryl S also joining early in the morning from the Philippines. Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys who get up early or stay up late. You make the show. Okay, what went right? Rolex Yachtmaster 42. Hold your fire, I can justify this. Isn't this a watch that left even Rolex fans disappointed? Well, the unconventional wisdom, I'm going to make my play. Many simply dismissed this $27,800 white gold watch as too expensive and a missed opportunity, but that's missing the point. First, it's basically what we wanted. We were afraid everyone was just going to do variation watches and extensions of existing lines. Well, this is an all-new model. There was no 42mm Yachtmaster with a new case. The first ever use of white gold on a Yachtmaster, which does fit the Yachtmaster image. It's a posh sports watch. We also got a new movement in the Yachtmaster with the 3235. We should be happy here. Why aren't we? Well, consider this. We should be, on the basis that this is the vanguard of the next generation Yachtmaster, and I believe we will see the 40mm retired in time. Consider the first generation of the current Submariner, which launched in 2008 as the Smurf. At the time, it was the first white gold Submariner. So that's an interesting parallel. It was only available that year in precious metal, yellow gold or white, and it's ruinously expensive at $36,850. But here's the thing, we eventually got an $8,550 steel sub-date. And if you look at Rolex history, Rolex often launches new model families with a cost-prohibitive full gold model. We saw it with the GMT in 2005, with the Sub in 2008, with the Yachtmaster 2 in 2007. We saw it with the Sky Dweller in 2012, and I believe we are seeing it now with the Yachtmaster 42 in 2019. So we might bemoan the lack of a steel case platinum bezel, which is the general combination in the Yachtmaster family. But I think we might see a steel, white gold, and Cerachrom bezel watch bow just a few years down the line after Rolex gets the launch model and the early low-hanging fruit of precious metal buyers out of its system. I think this will be someday the root of an all-new generation of steel, mostly steel, Oysterflex 42mm Yachtmasters. On that basis, this one is a winner, and I think its stature and esteem will grow in time. And I could see, jumping right in, we have Chris joining from Weehawken, and I deeply appreciate that. What didn't work? Well, all of the other Rolex watches. No ambition, nice pieces, well made, but these don't excite, they don't enthrall, and Rolex has had one hell of a run over the last decade. It's tough to get a year from Rolex that is only good. We're used to stellar. So by Rolex's standards, a disappointment and a little bit of a letdown. No Swatch, and they hit the show harder than I expected. I thought we would be seeing at least Swatch brand watches during the show. The experience of Baselworld has changed because we're not even seeing the new Omegas, Longines, Tissot, Hamilton, Blancpain, Breguet, and they are dearly missed this time of year. Nobody, I should also mention, was in a mood to put his mark on the show in Swatch's absence. Where was LVMH, the masters of hype, the Hublot, Tag, the Zenith people, when they could have put their stamp on Basel and owned it the year Omega and the rest of the Swatch brands withdrew? This was a boring Basel. I hate to say it, but that's the feeling I got, and I follow these things pretty closely. I know you feel the same way, but if anyone disagrees, tell me in the comment box below. Okay, what didn't work? Zenith's El Primero 50th anniversary was only okay when it should have been epic. Problem: the pre-Basel El Primero 50th anniversary trilogy was stunning, and I thought this set the stage for Zenith's best Basel ever. If the pre-Basel was this good, with the A386 steel recreation re-edition, the Chronomaster 2, and of course the Day-Fi 21 in a giant steamer trunk with its own powered lighting and a mini watchmaker's bench, plus a separate slot for a new, as yet unreleased 1/1000th of a second chronograph, Basel was going to be incredible. The 50th anniversary of the El Primero, it didn't happen. I would say the trilogy was the highlight of the year so far for Zenith. First, the Day-Fi Inventor. It's cool, but at $18,000, this is not going to be a volume model for Zenith, or even one that the collectors who need to see this watch to respect the brand are going to see on a regular basis. I'll also mention, and I know I'm going to upset someone in here because we had a Chatbox fan, but the new pilots, I should say, green dial, bronze, and camo, they feel at least 3 years behind the time and derivative to boot. Okay, jump into the Day-Fi El Primero 21 in carbon fiber. We already had this watch in titanium as well as black ceramic. I didn't feel the need for carbon. I feel this is something that Hublot in style and material already does better. Zenith didn't need to join this bandwagon. The double tourbillon is almost indistinguishable from the standard Day-Fi El Primero 21. The standard watch looks just like the double tourbillon. So from a design standpoint, this is the cost of making your dials too busy. At some point, less is more, because more ceases to be more when you can't tell the difference between a 10-piece platinum double tourbillon and something that you can buy for 12 grand. I'll also mention that the white, rose, and yellow gold A386 reissues are nice, but the steel model in the trilogy is the one the vintage purist really wants, and all of these in solid gold are going to be too expensive for that guy. And finally, last year's Day-Fi Classic collection was a triumph, both because of the deft styling, the watches looked Zenith, and because there was a range of dial options. You could get solid, you could get skeleton. There was also a handsome Range Rover version that didn't have Range Rover on the dial, plus you had your choice of all sorts of straps, the bracelet, and everything started below $7,000. This kind of watch was missing from Zenith's 50th anniversary El Primero collection and the 2019 series in general. Jumping straight into the box, guys, you guys have graced me with your wrists and your pride and joy. Jared S. has composed a fine atmospheric shot with his William Walker. I love that look. Nicely taken. That might be artistically the best wrist shot or watch shot I have ever received. Russell K. with a composition after my own heart with his Patek Philippe 5370p Retropump black enamel dial and the backdrop of his Porsche 911, a perfect match. Aleem D and his brother Rahim double up with the Tudor black bays in the Swiss Alps in town for Basel, and Raphael C and his collectible Rolex Sea Dweller 4000, rarely made and highly desired, conclude our day at the office with his office. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your analog on my digital. Comment and subscribe. Tell me in the boxes below, if you're watching this recorded, your favorites from Basel, what worked and what didn't. And also remember, subscribe to the channel. Visit me at Tim_Mosso on Instagram. Check out our sale, our spring sale on thewatchbox.com, everything from Omega to Longa. Plus, there is a link in the description below, the landing page for our new and exclusive first ever auction. It is a jointly branded eBay and Watchbox event. You've never been able to bid on our watches. For the first time, you're going to have the chance. Thank you for everyone who joined in. I really appreciate your passion. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and all of your contributions. I always read the live chat after the fact. Time out, Tim out. Hope you enjoyed Baselworld, and thanks for logging on.